Hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things. First of all, the announcement which I made yesterday on AOC Zone, and secondly, the patch 4.8 which was just released by Skybox for AoEHD, catching us all by a little bit of surprise. So first of all, the announcement which I made yesterday, I made it on AOC Zone, it was posted to Reddit, quite a few people have probably seen this already, and I even spoke about it a little bit in my Twitch stream yesterday as well. But for those of you who don't watch the stream or follow any of those channels, I wanted to make a video to cover some of this stuff as well, because it's quite exciting, and I'm really looking forward to how this is actually going to go. So, my company, Escape Gaming, which I founded in March with my partner in Germany, we've been doing a lot of work in esports during that time, and I've decided to take an opportunity which was given to the organization and bring that into Age of Empires 2. And that opportunity is our partnership with Twitch. The team, the organization, has a special deal with Twitch, which allows our streamers, aka our players or anyone who's streaming under our name and our brand, to have a really good revenue share with Twitch, better than you would be able to get as an individual, unless you're someone like Lyric or the huge Twitch streamers who do it alone. Basically, by grouping everyone together and putting it under a brand, we get this nice deal with Twitch, which allows us to pass on higher earnings to the streamers in our team. So we've created an Age of Empires 2 stream team, and that consists of 6 people at the moment, and maybe we'll be able to expand this in the future as well. But right now that stream is myself, Resonance22, T90, Memb, MBL, and the Viper. All 6 of us are in this stream team, but that's really not the end of it, that's really just the beginning. The benefit for us to be in this team is obviously that we can earn more from Twitch subscriptions, which is great, but it's not really a selfish thing. We're not trying to take more money and hide it away somewhere. We're actually going to use that additional money, which is now generated, and put it into a pool. So all 6 of us every month are going to put part of that additional revenue aside into a pool together, and then we're going to use that revenue that's generated from your subscriptions to all of our channels to host Age of Empires 2 events and tournaments. So this should be a really good initiative for everybody, since it's, in my opinion, a win-win all the way down. Everybody who supports their favorite streamer is also now going to be able to support AoE as a whole, and early next year, sort of like January time, we're hoping to launch our first sort of tournament or event. We're going to be trying to involve the community as much as possible, and all of these people in the team are going to be contributing to hosting and organizing and streaming and casting and covering all of the events that we host. So I was really excited to announce this, and I think it's a really good step for AOC. It gives us a lot of opportunities, and by working together and hopefully, collaborating a little more and doing a bit more cross-promotion, we can help to grow as well. So in my opinion, that's really cool, and it should be a nice positive step. I'm also hoping that by using a lot of the contacts we've gained with Escape Gaming and helping the Age of Empires scene to grow, we might even be able to bring in some sponsors and do additional things like that. So yeah, that's really cool, and hopefully you guys are on board with that. On top of all of that, Twitch has recently released a new thing called Twitch Prime. As you may or may not know, Twitch was actually bought by Amazon some time ago, and Amazon Prime now transfers to Twitch as well. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you're allowed to have 1 free subscription to a Twitch channel of your choice every month. So even if you don't want to buy a subscription to one of these channels, if you've got an Amazon Prime account, you can have 1 free subscription, and that actually does generate revenue for the streamer as well. So if you're not watching Twitch, but you have an Amazon account, I would urge you to go ahead and subscribe to somebody on Twitch anyway, because that's something that's going to benefit the Age of Empires community as well, even if you're not going to use it, and it costs you nothing extra. So second topic for this video, that's patch 4.8. Now we're going to go away from the camera in a minute and actually bring up the patch notes on the screen and talk about it in a bit more detail. But out of nowhere, after like a year of nothing, Skybox have just dropped a patch on us. It's currently in beta, and you can access it via the beta tab under your properties of Age of Empires 2. If you want to try this patch out, what you have to do is go to your Steam library, right-click on Age of Empires 2 HD, click on Properties, go to the Beta tab and select Beta 4.8, which is the new patch which was just released. A bunch of performance improvements and all of that stuff. I'm pretty excited for it actually. So far I've tested it out a little bit on the stream. It seems to actually really improve things, improvements which have been much needed for a long time, but I'm going to save all of that stuff for another video. But for now guys, we're going to hop onto the patch notes and talk a little bit more detail about what that means for the game. Okay, so here we are inside of Steam on the Age of Empires 2 HD discussion forum. I will link to this page below the video so you can check it out for yourself. Now, this is a huge patch. There are performance increases, bug fixes, desync reductions, loads and loads of changes to balance of the game, and there are also some known issues which are still yet to be fixed. Now, I've played a little bit of patch 4.8 on the stream, and I have to say it does feel a lot smoother. The game does seem to be running better, and there certainly seems to be a lot less input lag, which was previously caused by high ping. Even when playing with some people from Australia or New Zealand with about 350 ping, the game didn't seem to be too slow, and the input lag and delay certainly seems reduced. So far, my opinion of this is a good one, and I think there's still some small improvements to be made, but they certainly seem to be making steps in the right direction, so thumbs up to Skybox for that. But I would say it's about time. God damn, some of these changes we've been waiting for the best part of a year, and I'm so glad they're finally fixed, but at the same time, shame on you for not fixing them sooner. So just real quick, we'll go through. I encourage you to check this out yourself because there's a lot in here and I'm not going to cover it all. Multiplayer restore has been fixed. Again, this is one of those goddamn it's about time kind of situations. We've been able to restore multiplayer games on the CD version since 1999, and we've not been able to do it for the last year on AoEHD. This is a good update, and I'm glad that they've fixed it. Multiplayer restore is one of those things that if you're playing with friends, it's really valuable. If you're playing with random people, the chances of the game getting restored is virtually nil because you got to get 8 random or 7 random people back into the game. It just doesn't happen. But this is a good thing if you're playing with friends and your game drops, someone disconnects or something like that. The performance increases, I've certainly noticed an increase in performance. I have a pretty high-end PC, so I think these are going to be more noticeable for people with lower-end PCs, and generally that's a good thing because a lot of people were complaining about lag and low FPS, and this is a game that was released originally in 1999. You would really hope that the HD re-release would be able to run on most modern PCs, which I can almost guarantee everybody watching this video has a better PC than they did in 99. They should be able to make the game run at 60 FPS at least. So thank you for that. And hopefully they'll continue to make some improvements in performance as time goes on as well. There's also some optimizations to rendering and things. This is mostly technical, not really interesting to us in this video, but if you are interested, like I said, the link to this page is in the description. They've also done quite a bit to reduce and stop the desyncs from happening. Once again, this is one of those things, the desyncs have been with us for the best part of 3 years, since the game was released even. There's been numerous desyncs which just shouldn't happen, and finally, they've done something about it. I've not had any desyncs yet, though I have had a couple of situations where everybody's just disconnected from the game suddenly. I don't know if that's in place of desyncs, but at least the game isn't desyncing, and like I said, it's a step in the right direction. I think there's still a little more to do, but if the game isn't desyncing, that is good. There's also some general bug fixes here, and one of the big ones, I'm just so glad this has been fixed. In-game flares now display in the sender player's color. Finally! Yes, I mean, this is such an easy bug to fix. If this bug fix wasn't in here, I'd still be mad, but since it is, that's fine. But seriously, that's something that's so easy and simple to do, and they've finally done it after like a year of waiting, as well as a bunch of other fixes. A lot of this is just small things, but it's the kind of thing that adds the polish to the game, a polish that you would expect from a game that was released on Steam 3 years ago and is titled AoE High Definition Version Edition. Also, we've got some fixes to the functionality of the technologies in units, the way they should be, basically, rather than the bugged version that they were in the game right now. And game balance. This is big. There's a lot of changes to the balance, and this is something I could save for another video because I could easily spend an hour talking about all of these changes, but I will very briefly flick through them and give you a brief overview. So one thing I like about AoEHD is the ability to rebalance the game as time goes by. People who play the original, or the Conquerors even, they're still playing on the game balance from when it was released. And as a result, even though the community accept and they know that certain things are overpowered or imbalanced, such as the Hun Cavalry Archer, for example, it doesn't get changed and it doesn't really get fixed. There are initiatives in the AOC community by people like Carlos Ferdinand to actually make a balance patch, but it's not really been widely adopted, and the reason for that is because you can't force people to play a community-made balance patch. What you can do on Steam, however, is force people to play the correct balance version of the game, and that's what the developers can do by pushing these balance changes. This is a good thing because these newer civilizations that were included in the African kingdoms or the Forgotten Empires, they are newer, they have had less chance to be really thoroughly tested, and as time goes by, things are going to be discovered that are overpowered. For example, arrow slits, which has just received 4 big nerfs, and much needed nerfs at that, because arrow slits was really overpowered, as we saw recently in a AoE African Kingdoms tournament, which was hosted, I think, by Robbo, and we just saw players spamming towers and doing this tech, and that was it. That was just the meta because it was so strong. So big nerfs to arrow slits, the increase of cost, the push back to the Imperial Age. It was previously in the Castle Age. They've removed it completely for these civilizations, and they've reduced the effect by 50% as well. They've halved the amount of additional damage that the arrow slits give. So good nerfs there, much needed. They've also done a couple of changes here to these are general changes, by the way, not civilization specific. This is affecting everyone. Elite skirmisher upgrades reduced by 50 wood and 60 gold. That's just to try and disrupt the really prevalent metagame of crossbows in the Castle Age. And that's also reflected in the next change, which is husbandry, reduced by 100 food. As a result of this, Castle Age night rushing and raiding is going to be more powerful. It's going to make it harder to defend with spearmen, since the faster moving cavalry of knights, or even camels, I guess, can kite your spearmen a little bit easier. So there's a little bit of a buff to knights, a little bit of a nerf to crossbow in this patch. Fire ships now affected by ballistics is a big one. We've seen quite a few buffs to fire ships over the years, increase to HP, increase to speed. Now we're seeing ballistics as well, and this is once again like an anti-kiting mechanism. I guess it's the opposite of the husbandry one, since husbandry allows you to kite. This is to stop kiting, and that's basically from war galleys and galleons. Since fire ships have to get very close, the war galleys can shoot, move out of range, shoot, move out of range. With fire ships having ballistics, I think the goal here is to mean that if the fire ships catch up to the galleys, while the galleys are retreating, the fire ships are still going to be accurate and still be able to do damage, and that reduces the kiting effect from those war galleys and galleons. Siege towers have been reduced in cost by 100 wood. I think this is just because they weren't seeing enough use. I can't really comment because I haven't really seen much siege tower play, but I do question if this is now too cheap, since you have to bear in mind a siege tower can negate an entire wall, and walls are expensive and slow to build. Is this now too cheap? I don't know. If we see people spamming siege towers, we will find out. Acacia trees are now worth 150 wood. Not going to talk about this one here. Demolition raft speed and fire galleys are changed. So demolition rafts are now slower, fire galleys now have less HP, and this is to try and rebalance that feudal age water, which has changed a lot since African Kingdoms came out with the introduction of the fire galley and the demolition raft. Fire galleys were too strong, essentially. They were dominating the water in the feudal age, making the standard galley a little bit unviable. So I think this change is good and should hope to rebalance that feudal age water. We'll see if it works. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about a few of these changes, some of the bigger ones. Please let me know if you'd like to see a video which goes over all of these changes in detail and how it should affect the civilization and maybe the metagame in general. But the couple of ones I want to pick out is the Huns. The Elite Tarkin is given +1 Pierce armor. This is probably the first time I've actually seen the Huns get a buff. But the Tarkins now with this additional Pierce armor certainly gives them a little bit more viability. We didn't see Tarkins that often, and this means that they're going to be stronger at raiding, means they're going to have more sustainability under town centers, and it's going to make them a little bit more potent at bringing down those more defensive units. Now, the next big one is the Mongol Elite Mangudai frame delay increased from 0 to 5. What does this exactly mean? Well, in the original game, whenever you wanted to attack with the Mangudai, you right-click with them and they immediately fire. There is just there's nothing in between them stopping and shooting. With this frame delay, it means that when you stop the unit, they have to actually then load their weapon and then shoot. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's intended to be. And I think it's actually a bug in the fact, in the original game, the fact that they did fire immediately. It's the same with the Mameluke, and it's also written here that the Mameluke increases their frame delay from 5. So this is kind of changing the way that the Mangudai feels. It still fires at the same speed, but it does mean that there is a little delay from when you actually tell your unit to attack to them actually attacking, and it should mean that they are less broken. However, since they just received that nerf, they've also now got their old anti-siege bonus back, which is really kind of pressing the point of what the Mangudai was supposed to be, which is a bit of an anti-siege unit. You can use them in small groups to take down onagers, scorpions, trebs, rams, you name it. They're really good against siege, and I think that's what makes them unique. That's what a unique unit should be, in my opinion. A unit which has a unique purpose and a unique strength, and not a unit that is just super strong because it's their unique unit and it has instant fire and it's amazing to micro and all this stuff. Obviously, it's going to make it a little bit harder to dodge mangonel shots or things like that, for example, since the delay between attacking and stopping the unit is now higher, but they do get the siege bonus back, so they're also going to end up doing more damage when they do shoot. So I think that's a good change, and it means that they're less broken. Now, another big one here is the Portuguese Feitoria. It now costs gold and stone instead of costing gold and wood. The values are still 250 and 250, but this is now costing stone instead of wood. And the production rates have been increased. It now produces 0.1 additional food and wood in comparison to before, and it does it every 0.25 seconds instead of every 0.45 seconds. So quite a bit of an additional food and wood increase from the Feitoria over time. Now I'm going to be interested to see if this means the Feitoria is actually useful now, or if it's still just a little bit pointless. A lot of the time the Feitoria just wasn't worth it, as a single Feitoria was worth about 8 villages, I think, and you can actually get a lot more out of just building those villages. Since it also now costs stone instead of gold, the initial cost is higher, and I think that's just to stop early Feitoria spam, though I don't know why you'd want to spam Feitorias early anyway. I mean, I don't know. We need to do some testing on this and see really how it affects things. Another big change is for the Spanish. The team bonus for trade is now 25% more gold instead of 33. So now you only get a quarter more instead of a third. The Spanish trade bonus was so strong. If you had a Spanish player in your team, your trade line is suddenly going to be producing so much more additional gold. And that, in a team game, could be the difference between win or lose. Now, if there's a Spanish player on the other team, that gold bonus is going to be reduced. It's still a good bonus, though. I certainly don't think it's going to change the metagame or anything like that. It's just going to mean that playing really late game versus a team with the Spanish is a little bit easier for you. There's 2 more changes that I'd like to talk about. That's the Turks and the Vikings. The first is the Turks. Their gold miners work 20% faster, up from 15%. Oh yeah. As if the Turks weren't strong enough already, they've just gone and buffed them some more. I do like that change though. And finally, Vikings. Chieftains now affects all infantry units, and Chieftains is the technology which gives your infantry bonus attack damage versus cavalry. Since the Vikings don't get the halberdier upgrade, this does mean that their pikemen are going to be a lot stronger. It's also, of course, going to affect their champions as well, and maybe their condottiero if they have an Italian player on their team. So I think that's a good change, actually, and that's certainly going to make the Vikings a little bit stronger on land. Obviously, one of their biggest weaknesses was certainly heavy cavalry. Has it made them too strong, though? Well, we'll have to wait and see. There are obviously a lot more changes, as you can see here. Do check them out for yourself, and like I said, if you want to see me make a video and actually get a bit more in depth about this and break it down some more and really do a bit more analysis, do let me know in a comment down below. But I'm going to cut this video here because it's been going for far too long already, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.